Thank you very much for listening to the evening chanting. About Ajahn Tiradhammo. Ajahn Tiradhammo was born in British Columbia in 1949, and in 1973 he became a novice and took his higher ordination 1 year later at Wat Muang Man in Chiang Mai. In 1975, he moved to be in the order of Ajahn Chah and stayed at Wat Pa Pong and Wat Pa Nanasha. He went on the several Tudong journeys, which we will share with you the interesting experience from Sri Lanka, from the northeast of Thailand, from Switzerland, New Zealand, and at the present moment he is abiding in Sydney, Australia, at Wat Buddha Dhamma. He has been helping to establishing the monastery in England in 1982, and since then he has been taking part as a senior Sangha for a long, long time in the Dhammapala monastery in Switzerland. We would like to welcome Ajahn to share with us your wonderful experience. Even though a few of us, I think this is the way it's meant to be in Dhamma because of the traffic and the COVID and many reasons. Sadhu Ajahn, thank you so much for being at Ban Area for all of us.
So, good evening. Is there anybody who's completely new to Buddhism? Am I talking to the converted already?
I'm on the border.
On the border. New, but not old.
Yeah.
Not expert. Maybe after tonight you'll be expert. Well, the first thing I think to appreciate about the Buddhist teachings, it's not a belief system, but it's to be reflected upon. These teachings are to be contemplated and reflected upon or meditated upon, to be understood at a deeper level. You need a certain degree of, you might say, sometimes you say faith, sometimes you say confidence in these teachings. I mean, to me, they made a lot of sense. They were logical, rational, so I could appreciate the reasonableness of the teachings. But then the point is to try to experience them at a deeper level. The Buddha had a certain degree of insight into the human condition, enough to realize what we call complete awakening to the truth. But most of us don't really realize what that is. most of us, it's a very, very remote, vague experience of what is Nibbana. But the Buddha, many times he explained it as just being able to see things as they really are. So, I mean, this implies, of course, the Buddha's teaching Nibbana is to realize things as they really are. It implies that we don't really understand the way things really are. Right now we are living in a certain delusionary world. What we take to be reality is not the way it really is. But the Buddha not only gives us these particular teachings, particular reflections, it's also pointed the way to experience it, to practice, to realize for ourselves. And that's what where the effort lies, putting the teachings into practice. And very simply, the teachings are basically what's called in Pali, Sila, Samadhi, Panya. The people who have a little bit about Buddhism have heard it many times before, but this is morality, meditation, wisdom. And it really was, it took somebody like the genius of the Buddha to come up with these three areas of experience. Every religion teaches about morality, and some religions have a bit of emphasis upon meditation, and some also emphasize some degree of wisdom. But the Buddha pointed out that only when these three come together does the practice really begin to develop. The three need to be brought together as one complete practice. In detail, this is explained as the Eightfold Path. Morality is the right speech, right action, right livelihood. And then there's the meditation part, right energy, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Then there is wisdom. It's interesting that in the very beginning of the Buddha's teachings, he talked about wisdom, morality, and meditation. But in the last teachings the Buddha gave, it became morality, meditation, and wisdom. I think in the beginning, because the Buddha was teaching a new way of approaching religious practice, then the right view was very important. In the Buddha's time, there were many different views around, just like there is today. People have different views about the nature of what we call kamma or karma. I hear it over and over again. People talk about, this is just my karma, this is my karma. Well, actually, karma is action. Is what you do right now is kamma. What they're usually referring to is my kamma, is that they're referring to the results of their action, which happened in the past. But the Buddha said, if you believe that your life is dependent upon, is dependent or fixed upon the results of previous action, you can't be free. You're a prisoner of your previous actions. But the Buddha emphasized the action is right now. So of course we have some results of our previous actions. Just like talk about our life right now in this present time. Of course there is results that we reap from our previous actions this lifetime, right? What school you went to, what country you're born in, has an effect upon your mind right now and how you relate to things. I was born in Canada, so it was a peaceful country. Always emphasized peace. We send many troops to peacekeeping missions around the world. Not an aggressive country. Very different than our neighbors across the border. I won't mention any names. But anyway, if you know your geography, you know who I'm talking about. When I was traveling in America one time, years ago when I was a student, and I met this American traveler in San Francisco. We met together, and we traveled together. And this poor man was A1 draft choice to go to Vietnam, you see. And I had no worries. I was going off traveling to Europe, see. I didn't have to go to the military, do draft duty, you see. I'm being sent to a war zone. So we had very different life experiences. When we were hitchhiking across the desert, Arizona, and the police stopped us. And the policeman was a bit aggressive, and he asked my friend to see your draft card. So he showed it to the policeman. Oh, you're A1 draft choice. You'll be going to Vietnam, right? Then he came to me and he said, "Where's your draft card?" I said, "I don't have one." And his face lit up. He's caught a draft dodger. And I just paused for a few minutes and said, "I'm a Canadian." And his face fell. He hadn't caught a draft dodger. He caught a peacenik. So I realized the difference, just being where you're being born, you see, has an effect upon your life. But how people deal with that situation, that's your karma. See? That's what the Buddha emphasized. We can make a choice. Okay, maybe some people, they have, you can say they have some history, maybe even some negative history, but you still have a possibility to change it. Everybody has a chance to better themselves. You can say everybody has a chance to be enlightened, actually. Some of us had more work to do than others, but everybody has the possibility. We're all equal in that. See? So once we understand some of these basic principles, this becomes right view. The right view that the Buddha was emphasizing is to believe in the results of your action. The actions you do now, the skillful actions you do now, will have a positive effect upon your life in the future. You have to have that belief. For people who believe that nothing they can do, it's just my bad karma, I'm stuck in this. You recognize your habit patterns of way of thinking, negative thinking, self-criticism, disparagement, whatever, and you say, "Oh, nothing I can do now, hopeless." Well, then you're stuck in that then. You just compound that way of thinking, compound that particular experience. But you realize you can change. You can do some action now, positive action, and the Buddha gives us a whole list of different things to do. A lot of the Buddha's teachings have to talk about morality, actually. Keeping the 5 precepts. And there's renunciant precepts. So the Buddha gives us specific examples how to better our condition. The 3 main ways to develop skillful action are dana, sila, bhavana. That is generosity, morality, and meditation. And these are, I would say, they're in ascending order of ease, perhaps. Everybody can practice generosity. Even little children. It's just yesterday, this little boy, 5 years old, made an offering to me, right? And there's a movie made of when the monks first came to England, made by the BBC, called The Buddha Comes to Sussex. And there's a really, really beautiful image in there of this young boy. The monks are out on alms round with their bowls as they walking around the countryside in West Sussex, in England. And, usually we just go for a walk. We don't expect to get any food. People don't know the customs there, you see. But there's one picture where this boy has an apple, and mother tells him to put it in the bowl, you see. So he puts it in the monk's bowl, and oh yes, very wonderful. And then he picks it up and he eats it. But at least he put it in the bowl. That's a good karma. So even a little child can practice generosity. Morality takes a little bit more sophistication. Maybe it's hard to explain to young children, not to kill the spiders or the mosquitoes, It's hard for them, to have that sense restraint. But it's possible if it's taught in the right way. And then meditation, mental development. This requires a little bit more effort, a little bit more, I would say, understanding and wisdom also to deal with your own mind. The most difficult aspect of a human life is our mind. Some people think, oh well, the body, because the body, we got to drag it around and have to feed it every day and clothe it and rest it and all this, bathe it. But it's the mind which is the most complicated. The mind goes so fast. By the time you take a shower, for example, you clean your body, your mind can go to many different places. Can go around the universe and back again. It goes so fast. But the first exercise the Buddha gives in the development of the mind is the practice of focused attention, or samadhi, concentration. And if we can develop this exercise, and again, it just takes a little bit of effort, but sustained effort. And we just spend a few moments trying to collect our attention on the breathing, for example. And at the beginning, I remember my first attempt to focus my attention at university. I came across a book on Buddhism, and it talked about, this phrase I remember said, there's no past, there's no future, there's only the present moment is the only reality. And I was studying science, so I said, oh, of course, I understand that. I looked at my mind, and I noticed my mind was hardly ever in the present moment. So I was not in reality, in other words. I was living the past and the future. So then I tried to focus my attention on the present moment, and oh my gosh, it was harder than studying physics. The mind just kept slipping off back to the future, back to the future, back to the past, back to the future, back to the past. So I didn't have much patience then, so I just gave up. I filed it in the back of my, things to do list in the back of my mind. But fortunately, maybe 2 years later, I found myself in Sri Lanka, in a Buddhist monastery, meditation center actually. And I committed myself to stay for 1 month and had nothing else to do but focus attention on the breathing. That's all they require of you. Just sit there and focus attention on the breathing. You don't have to think about the past, don't plan the future, just... So I had a whole month to do that. So in that whole month, maybe I was able to focus on the present moment for 5 minutes, maybe. In the whole month. But it did get better. It did improve a little bit. I noticed it did improve with practice. So I knew it could be done, although I realized it's also hard work. But the best part was when the mind did calm down, it was a totally revolutionary experience. The first time in my life where the mind actually went quiet. Before it was just buzzing all the time, constantly. And there's no rest from it. Even sleeping was not a rest. Dreams coming on at night, and whenever I was awake, always thinking immediately. But through this exercise of focusing attention on breathing, eventually the mind calmed down. Oh, it is possible. It is hard work. That's why the Buddha calls it mental development, bhavana, developing the mind. This requires some exercise. It's like, physical exercise. That requires some effort. But if your mind can calm down, it is the best exercise you can do. It is the most valuable experience. Otherwise, we are really just the victims of our thoughts then. The thoughts are going on all the time. No rest, no rest, no rest. So right view, the understanding that the principle of cause and effect, we can do action now and it'll give results in the future. And especially, positive actions give positive results. Negative actions give negative results. We understand that. We understand the principle of karma. Then. Karma and vipaka is the result of it. And then the next part of wisdom is, to put that into effect in our life. Try to develop freedom from harmlessness, right thought. This is sankappa. Freedom from complete harmlessness, freedom from ill will, and renunciation. Renunciation probably is one of the ones which is most difficult for us to accept in a Western country, because so many of us grew up in a consumer society. The idea of a consumer society is the more you get, the happier you'll be, right? But how many of us are still believing that? How many of us are fooled by they call it the American dream? The more you get, the more I got, the more headaches I had, because you got to worry about those things you have, No. Just a few years ago, when I was in Australia, we had bushfires in that area where I was in. It was called the Sydney Mega Fire, and we were in the middle of it. Well, Buddha Dhamma, the monastery, was right in the middle of it. So we had to flee away from the monastery, and then had to leave the buildings behind, and leave most of my possessions behind. All I could take was one suitcase, one rucksack, with my computer and my passport and a few valuables. I'd leave all the other stuff behind. And then a few days later, somebody mentioned that we were on the news, on the Channel 9 news, and it showed pictures of the helicopters waterbombing our sala, surrounded by fire. Fire was coming down the hillside. And then one of the pictures was a building burning, And one of our supporters, they sent us this link, and he said, "Oh, looks like the Sangha house is burnt down, The Sangha house is where we have our kitchen and showers and storeroom, So I thought, well, it's a bit unfortunate if we lose all those robes and all our chocolate and stuff, But but it can be replaced, And I looked closely at the picture and realized, hey, not the Sangha house. It's my kuti. It's my hut. It's burning down. Then I really felt sick. When it's my things are burning down, burning up. My house burned down, my things burned up, right? That was different than it was the impersonal Sangha possessions. They can burn, but not my house, but my things in it, So I noticed a change in attitude when I saw it was mine, all gone. And I still feel sad about it, but but now I have very few possessions I have to worry about, because they're all smoke in the air now somewhere. And I had what I needed anyway. I had my robes, and I had my computer, most valuable things, my passport. And fortunately, I had sent most of my photographs to my sister's house for storage, because some people in Australia, the fire came so quickly, they only had a few minutes to move, and all their keepsakes, all their photograph albums, everything gone completely, burnt up. All the history of their life, photographs of their wedding and children being born and stuff, all burnt up. But that's what the Buddha is telling us too, isn't he? Life is very impermanent. If it doesn't go by the fire, then the flood, or breaks down and finally falls apart and rots away. And but in this renunciation, that's the way. Not only is it, say, physically a useful practice, simplifying your life, but also in meditation practice, when you can renounce your investment in your thoughts, for example. How many of us have so much investment in our thoughts? I was a university student, and so, in university students, we measure our progress by how clever you can think, you see. How much information you can store in your brain. Well, that was the old days. Now they just store it on a computer, right? In the old days, we used to use our brain, and to remember these facts and things, But, if then you try and focus your attention on breathing, and then all this stuff is in the way. All the things you remembered, all the information you have, all the clever thoughts you had, they get in the way. But if you're able to let them go, to renounce them, and not identify with them, I'm the clever person because I have all this information in my brain, which you lose anyway, when you get older. So one of those lessons takes a while to learn. You got to be 65 anyway before you remember it, before you realize you're forgetting things. It all gradually fades away. And then, the ultimate renunciation is the identification with what you call yourself. That's what the Buddha was pointing at, that what obstructs us from realizing the truth is grasping a sense of self. I am this body, I am this memory, I am the thinker. Holding on to those ideas, that prevents us from liberation. We still have thinking, we still have a body, but the identification with it, the grasping of it, gets in the way. We have an idea what we think of the body, we have a concept of body, we hold on to this idea and it changes and we get upset. We get frustrated, we have pain, we suffer from it. If you don't hold on to a concept, you just experience the body in the present moment as it is. That's just how it is. Sometimes the body is comfortable, sometimes not so comfortable. I have no fixed view about it. I live with this body now for 73 years, but I don't really know this body. This body's changing all the time. Maybe I have some idea what the 72-year-old body's like. but this new body right now, it's doing strange things anyway, all the time. So there are certain patterns, common patterns go through it. Gets hungry, gets tired, gets dirty, whatever. But those patterns also change. The kind of appetite one has, the length of sleep one needs, all changes as you get older. Changes by the day, changes by the moment, you can say. So not having a fixed idea about it, we can open to how it is as a direct experience, the way things really are, not how I think they are or remember them as they were before, but how they are right now. Just reflecting upon these three, morality, meditation, wisdom, the Buddha points out that these need to be balanced. It was really the genius of the Buddha that realized the importance of these three factors. You can say, every religion talks about morality, but if you emphasize morality without much wisdom, it just becomes fanaticism or dogmatism. Doing this kind of behavior is the right way, everybody else is wrong, you see. Well, having some particular kind of behavior, like just the precept of in Buddhism refraining from killing, for example. And in the Buddhist teachings, it's refraining from killing any sentient life, all sentient life, you see. But some religions say, well, it's okay to kill animals or insects, you know. And it's very hard even to explain to people, you know, why even killing insects is unskillful. You know, insects, they cause disease, and they're gonna endanger your life. Yeah. But there's other ways to deal with them rather than kill them. You know, like I was in Singapore some while ago, and they have a real intense program about not leaving any water, exposed water around for mosquitoes to breed in, you see. So, you know, if you understand, okay, mosquitoes breed in the water. So rather than try and kill the mosquitoes that have already been hatched, you try and don't allow them to grow in the first place, you know. Don't allow any open water, see. So then you know, this is very helpful for mindfulness and prevents you from that aggressive attitude of killing insects, you see. Even the attitude of killing mosquitoes is an aggressive act, you know, and you're already assuming a certain amount of ego. You know, I have the right to deny this being of life. You know, I have the right attitude. I can conquer those other living beings, you see. So you're increasing your grasping of a certain ego, you see. Whereas having to renounce that is very self-sacrificing, you see. It's getting very, very subtle, mind you, you know, very subtle level of renunciation, yeah. But it has an effect upon our mind. Little by little, you know, if you continue with those aggressive activities, you know, little by little they do weigh upon the mind. You know? But if you can try to follow that principle and change your lifestyle, you can live more harmlessly then, without bringing that aggressive attitude into your life. Yeah? And requires some creativity as well, you know, how to be creative about it. So this is where you know, morality and wisdom have to go together, you see. Need some wisdom to deal with how to live in our life skillfully. Yeah. The Buddha gave us certain principles, you know, the 5 precepts, but now how to apply those in a skillful way in the 21st century requires some wisdom. How to refrain from intoxication in the 21st century, you know, breathing in all this toxic air and stuff requires some creativity. Wearing masks. And you know, then we also, you know, in order to refine those precepts, 5 precepts, you know, refraining from killing, for example, you know, in order for you to appreciate, you know, say for example, not killing insects requires some calmness of mind. You know, if the mind calms down, you can notice the subtle movement of emotion in your mind then, you see. And then maybe you can notice how, you know, even trying to kill a mosquito, you notice how your mind becomes contracted, becomes aggressive. Oh, gee, before I didn't notice that because my mind is so busy, you know, so stirred up and so busy and so active. I didn't notice that subtle level of emotional movement there. With a quieter mind, you begin to notice these subtle differences in your state of mind, you know, and your particular emotional patterns, for example. And for some people, maybe they notice that, you know, okay, even that kind of activity, that aggressive activity, maybe they notice they like it even, you know. And then maybe you might hear somebody say to you, well, you're a bit of an aggressive person, you know. What? Me? I'm so peaceful. Yeah, you think you are, but but you didn't notice the subtle patterns of your mind, you know. Maybe your friends notice them more than you do. But if you develop more a calmness of mind, and you're bringing in the exercises of mindfulness, being more mindful of your bodily actions, being more mindful of your states of mind, you can notice these subtle changes in your mind then, at a more subtler level. We all have an image of what we think our self is, but when you bring a clear awareness and calmness of mind to it, you might notice a different person there. A different person than you think you are. Sometimes you surprise yourself. Maybe even sometimes shock yourself. How could I think those thoughts? But the Buddha gives us many different exercises, meditation exercises for training the mind. It's a very tricky job, but it has the most valuable potential. We live with our mind our whole life, and if you aren't a friend with your mind, you don't understand your mind, it can make your life very, very difficult. And the Buddha said that your mind can be your worst enemy. A mind which is not properly trained can be your worst enemy. You can notice this, sometimes people, they get into this like spiral of depression, for example. They get depressed, and then they get depressed about being depressed. And they get depressed about being depressed about being depressed. And they get stuck in this negative spiral of depression then. But if you have enough awareness of your states of mind, you can notice. First of all, we notice these particular states of mind, whether they're positive or negative. And the next exercise in mindfulness is to see the arising and the passing away of these particular states of mind. So you can begin to understand what conditions them, what brings them into existence then. Where does this depression come from? You might notice certain particular, situations in your life. When you think about your work situation, oh, depression. Think about some of your friends, oh, depression. Aha, right. There's some link there between your state of mind and what the trigger is, you see. Until you understand what the conditions are, the rising conditions are, how are you going to change them? We're aware of some of these states of mind, and people, unfortunately, the tendency of the mind is to focus on them. Oh, this is how it really is. Rather than recognizing it's part of a conditioned process. It has an arising and has a passing. And many times we don't even look at the arising of it. We just assume that's it. And then, some of these negative states of mind, for example, anger, for example. Anger is a good one. Anger. People you notice anger arising if you even can acknowledge it, for example. Some people can't even acknowledge it, that they have anger in their mind. They think, oh no, I'm a peaceful Buddhist, I don't have any anger. But just don't step on my toes, Just make sure you give me the right food and say nice things to me. But if you can acknowledge there is some anger there, some people, they recognize, oh, how to get rid of it now? I've been asked that question so many times, how to get rid of anger. I said, don't try and get rid of it. Trying to get rid of it is already anger. It already indicates you hate it. You hate your anger. So you're caught in the anger syndrome then. You hate your anger, so you get angry at your anger, and angry at being angry about being angry, and then you lost it. But look at it. First of all, in the calm mind, you observe there is anger. This is a state of mind. States of mind are like clouds in the sky. They arise and they pass away. They arise and they pass away. Can you actually hold your state of mind? Can you pick up your anger and pick it out of your mind and hold it in your hand? And how much does it weigh? What color is it? What is it? just a mental process, isn't it? Mental process. Very fluffy. And then once you can acknowledge this state of mind, look at the patterns behind it. What's the arising factor now? What's triggering off this anger process here? You know? It has a root, it has a source, it has a trigger for it, you see. Until we get to the source of it, we can never make any changes. So people try different things. They try anger management to manage their anger. So it's okay to have anger, you know, at certain, you know, government officials and things, you know. But you got to manage it properly, you see. But how to free ourselves from anger, you know, that's what the Buddha is teaching us. But first you have to understand it. What's the cause of it? We can only transcend suffering when we understand the cause of suffering. And to understand the cause of it, you have to go to it. You have to investigate suffering. You have to investigate anger, greed, aversion, and delusion. To look into it and see it, what it really is. What's its cause and what's its cessation then. So being able to look at something like anger, for example, I mean, it's not very easy, of course, the Buddha recognized, you know. But the Buddha gave us some special meditations to use. Yeah, the classic one is the practice of friendliness, metta bhavana. Yeah, and the practice of friendliness is not to try and get rid of anger, but if you can be more friendly to the anger, it allows you to come closer to it. If you can come closer to the anger, then you can get some clear perspective on the bigger picture of it, where it's coming from, where it goes to. But if you don't have friendliness towards it, you keep it at arm's length. You know, who wants to come close to your enemy? Yeah? Yeah? But you like to come close to your friends, right? Yeah. So if you're more friendly to your anger, yeah, you can come closer to it, and you can see it more clearly then, what it really is. It's just a mental process, triggered off by unpleasant feeling. Yeah? Feeling is the cause of anger. Unpleasant feeling is the cause of anger. So it's you know, who wants to look at unpleasant feeling? Huh? Most of us we give special attention to pleasant feeling. I like to see my pleasant feeling. Yeah, the more the better, you know. But unpleasant feeling, can you come back tomorrow? Come back tomorrow. Come back never, but if you have to, tomorrow, not today. But if you're aware of feeling, is one of the themes for developing awareness, mindfulness. You're aware of feeling tones. You know, there's pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral. You know, those are a given. Even the Arahant has pleasant, unpleasant, neutral feeling. But they don't have the same reaction to it as the unenlightened person. The unenlightened person likes pleasant feeling, dislikes unpleasant feeling. So, but if you can observe them, you know, it's just like observing states of mind. They rise and they pass, they rise and they pass. There are certain triggering conditions for pleasant feelings, unpleasant feelings. And in the exercise in developing mindfulness, the Buddha also points out to look at, you know, worldly pleasant feeling and worldly spiritual feeling. You know, there is the factor of joy, which is one kind of pleasant feeling. It's a spiritual pleasant feeling. Is the factor of awakening. You know, one of the 7 factors of awakening is joy. So the Buddha recognized the value of that as but it's a spiritual joy. It's not a sensual joy. Yeah. Not the joy of sensual experience, pleasant sight, sound, smells, taste, touch. You know, the joy which arises in meditation practice is a spiritual joy, spiritual pleasant feeling, which the Buddha said, you know, has a much is not of the senses. Isn't that one of the, doesn't come from the senses, so it is much more spiritually based, much more, you can say, intangible, but it doesn't depend upon the senses, which are very fragile, you see. So being able to recognize spiritual joy, for example, you can learn to cultivate it. Sense of well-being within oneself. Just a sense of, we are alive right now. We are alive, we are conscious, we are awake, to a certain degree. Just recognizing that and learn to appreciate it. And become a seed of joy then. But most people, they look at but then tomorrow I have to go there and do this, and tomorrow I have to go to the dentist. Oh my goodness. Just remembered. Dental appointment tomorrow. But today my teeth are fine. So focus on the pleasant feeling right now. Then unpleasant feeling, okay, it arises and passes away too. But most of us are frightened of the unpleasant feeling, so then it makes it even, then you get even more unpleasant because of the fear of the unpleasant feeling. It's also unpleasant, right? But when it's there, you can be open to it and present with it, not be frightened by it. It's not so bad as you think it is. This requires some, of course, mental development in order to be able to be present with unpleasant feeling. The mind needs to be reasonably calm. The mind isn't calm, it just gets spun off into all our old reaction patterns then. All our rejection of it, our fear of it, and whatever. We have so much, people have so much unprocessed or unskillfully processed unpleasant feeling, they don't know how to deal with it in a very skillful way then. But at least we have some calmness of mind. We don't compound that negative reaction for it. When you can sit quietly, for example, and maybe after a while, maybe in meditation, if you're sitting cross-legged, for example, after a while, the posture becomes unpleasant. Maybe your knees get sore or something. And if your mind is not very peaceful, then it becomes very irritating. But you may notice that if sometime when your mind is calm, you can sit with that unpleasant feeling, and not so bad, is it? If the mind's calm, you can tolerate the unpleasant feeling with a calm mind. That's what the power of focused attention or samadhi does. There's even one Ajahn, he used pain as one of his meditation objects. I wouldn't recommend it because it can be dangerous too, And I tried it myself with my knee here, and it wasn't very successful. So I have personal experience. Be very, very careful. So now I recommend people take it very, very slowly, gradually, rather than try and push themselves too much. Little by little, better. But the little bit at a time, but with some continuity, you can slowly open to it. The unpleasant discomfort, for example, just make sure you don't go beyond the limit. So the Buddha gave us a great variety of meditation practices to use. One of my previous book was about working with the hindrances, the 5 hindrances: sensual desire, ill will, sleepiness, restlessness, and doubt. And the book was called Working with the Hindrances, you see. Because most people, when they experience a hindrance, they want to get rid of it. But that isn't what the Buddha is pointing at. It isn't trying to get rid of the hindrance. It's trying to understand it. You need to investigate it to find out what the conditions are, what the causes are, see. When you find out what the causes are, then you can make some changes. you don't get down to the root cause of it, then you're just shifting the furniture in the room, as we say, you know. Yeah. You try and get rid of your anger and you get depressed. You try and get rid of your greed and you get angry. You don't actually get beyond it. You just change the furniture in the room then. So working with the mind requires a certain degree of understanding. You know, that's where samadhi or focused attention, meditation practice requires some wisdom, how to work with the mind in a skillful way. If we just think we can just sit down and we can conquer the mind, we can silence the mind with willpower, it's not going to work. No wisdom in that. And you just get a headache, and you won't get any positive results out of it. So, and then if we're trying to develop focused attention, you know, and we don't live a skillful life, then if our morality is not sustainable in a skillful way, then it's going to distract your mind then. Your mind's going to have more remorse, guilt, confusion, uncertainty. Yeah. So morality, focused attention, and wisdom all go together, you see. Must be carefully balanced. When I first read about the Buddha's teachings, I knew about the Eightfold Path. I thought it was like a ladder, you see. You get the first step first, and the second one, and the third one. And people even today, they still say, oh, I can't meditate because I have to have more morality first, you see. Must purify my morality before I can meditate, you see. But really, it's about putting all three of them together, you see. They complement each other. You try and meditate, and you notice some of the disturbances in your mind and realize, oh, maybe I have to stop with intoxication maybe, if I want my mind to quieten down. Or if I have aggressive thoughts in my mind, perhaps I have to be develop more harmlessness in my life, be less unkind to people and be less aggressive to animals and insects, you know. And then once we get some understanding of that, we see the cause and the effect principles. This is the beginning of wisdom. You're seeing cause and the effect in action. Then, you know, if your life is not very skillful, there's the result of it. Then, so you have a direct experience of cause and effect. There you begin to have right view. Then, so wisdom begins to develop. Yeah. Then you recognize, oh, okay, now if so then I kind of refine my morality a bit more, then I can see the effects. Yeah. So our initial understanding of it becomes direct experience. So we see that for ourselves. So you can say we don't need to rely upon the Buddha to tell us anymore. We see it ourselves. Of course, the Buddha's teaching is very, very extensive. You know, there's many different. Buddha gives many different examples. He gives different meditation exercises, and different examples. He talks to different people. That's one of the useful things of the Buddhist scriptures, for example, because the Buddha is giving the same teaching, but to different people, different times. So different people require different kinds of teachings, you see. I spent many years with Ajahn Chah in northeast Thailand. And that was one of his gifts. You know, he could talk to a whole range of different people, from very well-educated people to the local villagers, you know, to Westerners, you know, to Thais, Westerners. You know, people wondered why he could teach Westerners. He said, well, how do you teach Westerners? Well, you know, you just say, well, we all have greed, aversion, delusion, whether you're a Westerner or not. Westerners might think they're more clever, but so when you When you understand your own mind, you understand greed, aversion, delusion, you can understand all human beings, you see. And maybe sometimes he couched his teachings in examples from northeast Thailand, for example, which I found personally quite helpful, because it gave me a new perspective on things. Could talk in very, very simple language. A lot of the books on Buddhism in English are they're coming from the university professors, you see, so they're very fancy language. Yeah. Ajahn Chah could talk very, very simple language, give very, very profound teachings of the Buddha in very, very simple language. Very, very simple. Yeah. So it cut through a lot of the complexities and the proliferation that many of us have. I think that's why many Westerners appreciate his teaching so much. It's very, very simple and down to earth. But working with the mind, one of the trickier parts of spiritual practice, requires quite a bit of understanding, wisdom, flexibility, and it requires patience. One time when I was with Ajahn Chah, I think when I was with him personally, one time he turned to me and he just said, I can't give you any wisdom. He said, all I can give you is patience. And I felt really disappointed. Here I came all the way halfway around the world to come to get some wisdom from Ajahn Chah, and all he could give me was patience. It was a bit of a downer, I expected some profound wisdom, and I just got patience, you see. It took me a while to appreciate what he was saying, because what he's really saying is that real wisdom comes from your own experience. So just by reading his books, listening to him talk, is not wisdom really, not your wisdom. That's his wisdom, and we're just copying it, you see. But the wisdom comes when you stay with the practice. He gives you the patience to stay with it, the encouragement to keep practicing through all the ups and downs and the disappointments and frustrations. And then if you can keep up with it, then you gain your own wisdom. You understand your own mind then. You see it for yourself. That's what he was pointing to. We have to see this for ourselves. And it's not all, wonderful wisdom. In a sense, we usually think of wisdom, oh yeah, right, I got all the answers. People want to have Nibbana first thing, What's this Nibbana stuff anyway? Well, first of all, just try and watch your breath. If you can find your breath, you're on your way to Nibbana. Take the first step first, the first breath first. And if you keep watching your breath long enough and investigating it, then you might realize Nibbana. But don't just think about Nibbana. It's just an idea in your mind. But you find Nibbana by watching your breath, following that to its source. So we need to get the right priorities then, So sticking with the practice, the continuity is most important. And through all the ups and downs, sometimes you have moments of insight, some moments nothing, just confusion and doubt. Yeah. But if you investigate your confusion and doubt, that's where the real wisdom comes from. When you can really understand your doubt and confusion, then you really understand your own mind. Because that's part of it. That's part of your mind, right? It didn't come from outside, it came from your own mind. So. There's somebody who was just recently telling me about how they had trouble with irritation in their meditation practice, you see. Living in a monastery is not all just, wonderful, just all wonderful spiritual inspirations, but they had to live with people, and they got very irritated by somebody there, you see, in the monastery. He said they just couldn't work with it. So first of all, I suggested metta practice, being friendly. I tried that for a week or two. Try it for 10 years. Hasn't gone away. I'm still irritated. Of course, they just want to get rid of their irritation, But the real wisdom is to try and investigate your irritation, And I was remembering one of Ajahn Chah's teachings when he went to England the first time. It was the first time, the first time, and the monks were living in this apartment in London, and across the street was a pub. And it was summertime, so it was hot, and so they had the windows open, but the pub played live music, you see. So one of the monks was complaining about the music, loud music, was upsetting his meditation practice. So Ajahn Chah said, the music doesn't bother you, you bother the music. Yeah? It's just sound. You're the one who's annoyed. The sound isn't annoyed, you're annoyed. So where's the sound? Where should you investigate? Not out there trying to shut the noise down. You should look in here. That's where you can shut the noise down. So that person doesn't irritate you, you irritate yourself. Huh? That's a hard lesson, isn't it? It's easier to blame somebody else for your irritation than to accept responsibility for it, that you irritate yourself. But that's where your homework is, right inside your own mind. But once we can do that, once you find the source of irritation, you can free yourself from irritation for the rest of your life. Huh? So that the person who irritates you, you should thank them. They are a very valuable lesson for you. I had an occasion when I was in Switzerland where somebody irritated me. Well, at least I remember one person especially. Probably many people, but one person especially, and it gave me a lot to work with for months of meditation. This irritation just kept being there all the time, so I had to investigate it. And it was an extremely valuable lesson. Fortunately, it happened during a meditation retreat, so I had time to work on it, you see. And as I was investigating it, then I could get deeper and deeper into it, different levels of irritation. There was irritation was anger on the surface, and then irritation and frustration and resentment, working through the whole list. And the deeper I got into this, kind of whole syndrome of negative reactions, kind of the broader it got, and the more it involved my life. The resentment starting off very, very early in life, and the frustration starting off even earlier in life. And so the anger was just built upon, frustration, resentment, anger. Whole life just got built up upon this unprocessed resentment from many, many years ago. And the deeper you got into it, when you can resolve the resentment, deepest levels, then frees the whole structure collapses then. What's to get angry at then? But it's not very pleasant. But we here for pleasant feeling or for freedom, for liberation. It's up to us. We have the choice. So I think maybe I should pause there and leave time for questions. If there are any.
I wonder before we start the Q&A, question and answer, Ajahn, please guide us through the way to see our mind for about 15 or 20 minutes. So that the question will be the right question.
Well, If people are willing to do some meditation? Okay. You'll need to stretch your legs a bit. Yeah. You can stand up if you like. Yeah. Get the circulation flowing. So we take up a comfortable sitting position. And to recognize if the sitting position is comfortable enough, we bring our attention to the body sitting here. Try to tune into sensation of body. Can be aware of the body in general, just noticing if there's any obvious discomfort in the body. Or you can move your attention through the body, from the top of the head, moving down from the top of the head, down through the body, down to the, slowly moving down to the your backside on the cushion, for example. You have a noticeably pleasant sensation or unpleasant sensation. Down to across your legs, down to the bottom of your feet. If you do notice some discomfort, unpleasant feeling, just try to adjust our posture as best we can. If there is any unpleasant sensation, then it'll attract attention. So we try and relax the body as much as possible. And once the body is reasonably comfortable, you bring attention to the sensation of natural breathing at the nostrils. Just trying to observe the sensation of breathing. The breathing is always present, so it's a very steady, reliable point of reference. And as you settle your attention on the breathing, maybe for a moment you can also just notice the condition of your mind. You notice the general state of the mind right now, the level of clarity, or lack of clarity, a degree of busyness of mind or calmness of mind. And as you gain that understanding, when you bring up the attention on the breathing again, is keep that in your mind too. If your mind is very busy, you need to be more attentive to the inhalation, exhalation. If your mind is not very clear and awake, you need to be more aware of the breathing process, the movement of breathing, either at the nostrils or at any other place in the body. So we just take up the sensation of natural breathing as the main focus for attention. Attention may wander. We may hear sounds outside or other sensations in the body. But at this time, those are just secondary. And the sensation of natural breathing is the primary or main focus of attention. Back to the breathing, back to the breathing, back to the breathing. Having one consistent object helps to settle the mind. Maybe from time to time, bring your attention back to the body, sitting here, observing again what the condition of the body is. Comfortable or not so comfortable. The body is always changing, so to check in from time to time. And back to the breathing again. Try to observe the breathing very carefully, beginning of the inhalation through to the end of the inhalation, beginning of the exhalation through to the end of the exhalation. And from time to time, noticing the condition of the mind. Again, the mind is always changing. A degree of clarity or lack of clarity. A degree of calmness of mind or busyness of mind. We use the one word calm, but of course there are many expressions of that calm. Lightly calm, moderately calm, clearly calm, dully calm. So we learn to become familiar with what calmness means of the mind. Getting direct experience of it. And then bringing attention back to the body, sitting here once again. Tuning into sensation. Is the sensation pleasant or unpleasant in the body? And then you can relax your posture and open your eyes. And any questions?
Thank you very much for coming here and giving this talk. I have a question about the role of formal and sitting meditation. When I come to an event like this and everyone's meditating together, I find it relatively easier to do, but to actually keep up a practice on my own, I find very difficult to maintain the habit. And I've also heard some teachers who say that it's almost more important to bring meditation into small moments in everyday life. So just like meditating just for a few breaths while like waiting for a red light, or in these little moments throughout the day. So do you think that if trying to develop that sort of meditation that occurs in small moments throughout the day, is that just as important, or could it even replace formal sitting practice, or is it important to also try to keep up the habit of a formal sitting practice as well?
Well, I think a variety of practices are helpful, because each situation, you develop different faculties, different aspects of your practice, if you like, and each situation also gives you different insights into yourself. The momentary practice is really helpful if you have a busy life, and you can catch yourself, in the course of your life, so you can see where you lose your collectedness or your calm, you see. But then, those moments, you aren't able to develop a very deep level of calm. So having a formal meditation practice can possibly lead to deeper levels. But I think you have to be careful that you don't push it too much. Like I tell people not to sit by the clock, but to sit by the feeling, you see. You just make sure you feel comfortable, you have a pleasant feeling about it, and just sit as long as you feel comfortable with it. Maybe push a little bit, but not to be too uncomfortable, because the last experience you have is the most memorable one. So if your last experience of meditation is pain, you don't want to do it again. You take up tennis instead or something, or so I say step by step, and keep a confident and pleasant experience of it. So maybe just start off with, if you look around in your day, maybe there's more suitable time. For example, after you finish your shower or something, you got a few minutes to sit down, or just you come in from work or something, rather than just jump into something else. Turn on your computer or going to start cooking or something. Just sit down for a few moments. An exercise Ajahn Chah taught was whenever we go through a door, we stop. And in the monastery especially, there's usually a Buddha image, you see, in the hall, in our rooms even. So you go through a door, you leave the hall, you bow 3 times, then you go to your room, You go into your room, you bow 3 times, Just these moments. I thought originally he was very religious, you see, all this bowing. But it was actually part of meditation practice. Stopping, collecting yourself, and focusing on the Buddha, you see. Because when we go places, we're in the movement, you see. I'm leaving here and I'm going somewhere else. See? Whereas when you leave, you stop, collect yourself. You leave from here, and you're collected then, and you go to the next place, enter the next place, you collect yourself as you enter. So you maintain this as a points of reference in your life then. So, but I mean, in formal practice, I mean, look around in your day. When's a more suitable time, Yeah. If maybe in the evening you're too tired from work, it's not so good to have not so easy to have a positive attitude about it. Oh, back from work. Oh, meditation work now. Oh no. No. So look around with a more favorable time when you feel comfortable about it. You can just sit and stop and be quiet, and you don't need to sit cross-legged all the time. Just sit down and gently close your eyes, or sit in a space like you can look at a Buddha image, or or something, flower or something or other, flowers or something. I don't know if that's relaxing or not. It's kind of stimulating, isn't it? It's for a sleepy night. So that's helpful. Yeah. Yeah.
I've experienced the spiritual joy that you mentioned briefly, but it's completely overshadowed by the 5 hindrances that you mentioned. I recognize I'm suffering from all those hindrances at various subtle levels. The one hindrance as a single layman is the desire for the opposite sex. I have a lustful mind, always craving the form, a beautiful form of the opposite sex. And I think that seems to be attached to a lot of guilt, obsession, and a lot of mixed emotions, and I get depressed about it. And physically too, it's exhausting. I've been, somebody's my family recommends that I find a woman and get married and live a householder's life. But I'm not certain if that's going to be the
magic answer. It's not going to be the magic answer. It's a magic solution. Yeah.
I didn't get to.
Well, no, we all look for one, particular solution to our problems. You see. Yeah, this will be the magic pill, I can take and solve all my problems,
That's what
Yeah.
seems to be the suggestion.
Yeah. But I mean, with the hindrances, they work at different levels. So I'll say just start off with the most obvious level, you see. And then you can when you work with that, you can investigate it. Maybe you can work your way through. But I mean, in that one thing, you said there's all these things here: depression and guilt, and oh my gosh. How are you going to unpack all that,
Investigate it while indulging in it? Is that possible?
Well, I mean, the Buddha is recommending that we investigate it with a calm mind, you see, calm and clear mind. So when you're indulging in it, probably your mind is not very calm and clear. Yeah. So, yeah. But when there's that, basically we work at calming the mind first. Then when the mind is somewhat calm, that's the time we shift into investigation then. Say it's samatha vipassana, we say. Calm insight, see.
Without indulgence.
Yeah, ideally, yes. Yeah.
So you're doing it mentally.
Well, it needs to involve the body too. Yeah, the body needs to be calm too. The mind to be calm and the body calm, and there must be some time when your mind is not totally obsessed. Sometimes. You wake up first thing in the morning, or after lunch maybe or something. be some time when your mind is not totally overwhelmed. Huh? Going for a walk, walking in nature or something rather,
And investigating it?
Yeah.
How do we investigate these things?
Well, you first look at what is it sensation, feeling, state of mind. That's mindfulness, you see. These three.
It's all three.
Well, you try and look at what's the most prominent one. There must be one which is really prominent.
State of mind.
State of mind, yeah. So then you try and observe, what's around the state of mind. What are the triggers? What are the factors that kind of underlie it and are setting it off? And
As a man, I mean, you've been a young man yourself and a practitioner. Is it possible to get to the root of it, though?
Yes, yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's the root of it is pleasant feeling.
Sorry?
Pleasant feeling.
What is
We all seek pleasant feeling, you see. So we look for different sources of it. Sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. So for some people, it's some people like musicians maybe. Their source of pleasant feeling is sound, pleasant sounds. For people who are gourmets, it's food. It's a sense of taste. And maybe for a sensualist, it's sense of it's touch in the body or something rather. So it's all different varieties. We seek pleasant feeling, you see, through the six senses. For some people, it's like for academics or intellectual people, it's thought. They get a lot of pleasure out of thinking clever thoughts or new ideas or something rather.
I've been told, this is a very personal question. I apologize to the audience for bringing this up. But as a man, I've been told that the loss of semen is equivalent to death.
Oh, I don't know anything about that.
No? So that's a myth.
I don't know. I don't know exactly what. Yeah.
Like, basically, it says that it's important not to lose semen as a practitioner.
Could be, yeah. You have to study yoga. I think yoga teachings talk about those kind of things. Yeah.
It's from the yogic tradition.
Yeah.
So from your personal insight, that doesn't make any sense.
Not necessarily. No. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, if I understand Buddhism and meditation correctly, it really involves trying to gain understanding and insight into one's mind. And someone who studied psychology, I find that in the field of psychology often asks many of the same questions as to why mental phenomena exists as it is. And one answer that psychology has given is that a lot of the thoughts and feelings and drives we have come from evolution. They come from whatever helped our ancestors to survive and reproduce over the centuries. That's sort of what we've inherited. That's the minds that we have. So I think, for example, that could explain, for instance, sexual desire, because that's the instinct that allowed our ancestors to reproduce. So if our ancestors didn't have that, instinct to go out and mate, then they wouldn't reproduce, and their genes wouldn't be passed on. And it's, our ancestors that went out and had that strong desire to mate, and then therefore passed on their genes, and we've inherited those genes from them. So, would viewing, our desires and instincts and thought processes, understanding them as a product of evolutionary forces, would that, contribute towards insight into our own minds and help us to perhaps overcome it, or at least understand it better?
Well, the problem is it's just a head trip, you see. you understand it in your brain, but you don't actually experience it directly. See? That's one of the limitations, I would say, of something like it's a lot of study, but then there's not putting it into your life. It's not got morality in it. It's not got concentration in it, so it hasn't got into the refinement of seeing this directly in your own mind. It's just a theory, So it's just too intellectual, too conceptual then. So maybe it gives you some, overview of the processes, but unless you can experience it directly, what's the change? You can't really change it then. So the Buddha was pointing at direct realization, you see, which involves way of life, focused attention and mindfulness, direct seeing, as well as understanding. So that's like, but that's a lot of Western education is about putting the understanding first, which maybe gives you some directions of which way to go, but until you actually do the practice, you don't get the direct experience, and so it just becomes a kind of a theory in your mind. So, till you experience your instincts directly. Doesn't mean you have to go out there and kind of chase lions around or something, I don't think. I see that, oh yeah. I just see this image behind me with his hand up, But he's asking a question of me.
I was going to ask a question about equanimity. You explained ubeksha or ubekha in Thai, equanimity. I think I'm doing it wrong because I feel like even in pleasant situations, happy encounters, I tend to dim it down. And then I end up feeling neutral.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I end up not being happy, not being sad, not being emphasis
Yeah,
on me.
yeah.
I don't think I'm doing that correctly. So.
I tried to practice equanimity when I was early on in my practice, and I found out that I was actually practicing indifference. Yeah, not equanimity. Equanimity is actually one of the highest, developed states of mind, you see. Equanimity is in the fourth absorption. It's the fourth of the Brahma Viharas, the divine abidings, you see. So it's so it's actually very, very refined. It's being even-minded with everything. See? Not trying to calm them down or whatever, It's being open-minded, completely receiving all levels of experience, but keeping an even mind with it, you see. So that's why I say it's very advanced. Yeah. Otherwise, you end up developing indifference, like turning off, you see. And that's detrimental to clarity of mind and energy and many things, you see. So we start with friendliness first, and like the Brahma Viharas, friendliness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and then equanimity. Yeah. So they're like tuning in. Like friendliness is tuning in to things which are unfriendly. So you have to learn to tune into it. Compassion is tuning into people's suffering. And sympathetic joy is tuning into people's joy in their life and not being envious of them, you see. So it's all about tuning in first, and then equanimity is, once you've seen it all, then you can be even-minded with it. Yeah. You're starting off with the advanced practice first, huh? Yes, yeah.
Further on to our friend's question about equanimity. As you know, I like to help animals and a great compassion for elephants, gorillas, and dogs and cats. So if we do want to help, and we know that we cannot help each and everyone, but we hear sad news again and again about elephants being
Happy with your sadness. Well, one of the meditations they suggest is that you reflect upon kamma, the results of your action, previous actions. You see, like the animals. They say, we can't, hard to know, but the animals get reborn as an animal due to the effects of the previous action. You see, so all of us are powerless between the law of kamma, vipaka. See, we're all subject to it, so we can't control it. You see, so that's there. You have to be careful not to say, not to dismiss them, saying, well, that's just their bad karma. We try and do what we can to help. See, but when you can't make any changes, you have to recognize, oh, that's the principle of kamma. I have to let go there. I can't not much I can do about. I can't make any changes about this anymore. That's their kamma. See, just like some people, you'd like to maybe teach the Buddhist teachings to your relatives or something, but there's only so much you can do. You can't convert them. You can't brainwash them. That's being aggressive. It's being not being compassionate to them and try and brainwash them. But it's their kamma. The teachings are available. You made an effort. So then you have to say, well, it's up to them now. See? So you do the best you can. You say we practice the Dhamma, leave the rest up to kamma. But you have to be careful. You're not just dismissing it, saying, "Oh well, that's their tough luck." You do what you can. You try and help as much as you can, but then you realize that there's only so much you can do. You spend your whole life, trying to free the elephants or something, but can you prevent every single elephant from being shot? How much can you do? So otherwise you get burnt out.
So I just don't understand Ajahn Tiradhammo. We are Buddhist countries, but it seems like Thailand, the wildlife conservation or metta, karuna, it doesn't seem to be as much as like in the West. Farang seem to have more connection to animals.
Well, not necessarily. Yeah.
You mean the whales and the whales involved in it?
Well, hunting in the West too, Yeah. In Canada, they have lots of hunters, hunters and fishermen, and they don't think twice about animals, They just think it's just meat on the hoof, so, a meal on the hoof,
Or deer hunting season?
Yes, yeah. I think you had your hand up first. I think again, yeah. You're quick with your hand. Yeah.
After hearing the conversation about animals, it reminded me about something you said earlier about killing mosquitoes and why we shouldn't kill mosquitoes. And the gist of the message, if I understood correctly, is that if you kill a mosquito, you're basically giving in to an aggressive impulse. So it has a negative effect on yourself by doing so.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I understand of Buddhist morality, that seems to be a common theme where morality is about doing actions that are going to allow you to develop in a positive direction rather than
Punishment from some higher power. Yeah.
That's right. Or even just it's not really necessarily about whether the mosquito lives or dies itself. It's about how the action affects you.
Mm-hmm.
So, for someone who devotes their life to the welfare of animals, it's almost would it be true to say that it's almost unimportant whether the lives of the animals actually improve or not? It's more about the effects those actions have on the person doing them.
Yeah. A lot of the animals, they have much less choice over how they can direct their life, you see. It's like young children. They have less choice how to live their life, so it's important that you try and protect them, you see, because they're helpless. You know, so we try and exercise compassion towards those who are more vulnerable and more helpless, if we have an ability to do that, you see. And we have this choice to help them. See? But they have, you know, they don't have limited choice to how they help themselves. So that's beneficial for you, develop compassion, you see. But, you know, they're still animals, so, you know, their lives are shorter than humans, and, you know, and their life is more difficult, and, you know, whatever, you know. So you can't expect them to have the same kind of standard of comfort as we do, you know, although some have better. You know, some pets are better fed than some humans, you know, but and sometimes, I mean, you know, like I think that sometimes we interfere with the animal realm too, you know, like you know, feeding the animals, for example, like in our monastery, it's in the middle of a national park. And some of the people, they want to feed the animals, you see. But it really upsets the whole cycle of nature, you see. When the birds start getting the food from the monastery, and it's not very healthy food they get either, you know, for birds, I don't think. You know, eating Thai curries. Is it healthy for birds to eat Thai curry? Well, they should be eating seeds and nuts and things, you know. But then they don't know how to forage themselves, you see. And then like when there's these animals called the goanna in Australia. So like a big lizard, you see. And they live off of the scraps in the kitchen, you see. So now the place is crawling with goannas. We have 10 of them crawling around. You know. But then when we had the bushfire, we had to all evacuate, and the goannas were going hungry. Yeah? And we came back, and there's only 1 or 2 left. Yeah? I don't know if they died or got burned up, maybe. Maybe they got cooked. I don't know, in the bushfire. Or they had to go further away to go foraging for food, you see. So it wasn't the scraps from the kitchen anymore, you know. We were out for 2 weeks, so they had to go and find their own food. And occasionally I see one of these goannas in the forest, very skinny, but the ones in the monastery are really fat. So I don't know if it helps them or not. You know, it upset the whole balance. You know, so they got there's more of them there than there's enough food for the naturally. You see, so. I would say so, yes. Yeah. Sometimes it's kinder to let them, you know, struggle for food for themselves, and then they get the right food, and they learn how to to forage properly for food, you see. Like these young goannas, they don't know what it is to have to hunt for their own food. They rely upon the scraps of the monastery, you see. Yeah. And as long as we're, you know, probably won't be a bushfire soon, I don't think, because all the rain we had. But anyway, you know, if they get deserted again, we have to leave them. They're going to be, you know, won't even know how to look for food themselves. So anyway, in the bigger picture, it's not a big problem. I don't think there's bigger problems in the world stage. Yeah.
5 minutes for announcement.
Oh yeah. There's one more right here. Yeah.
The past few years I've been trying to practice sila and samadhi, with, you know, maintaining a job, living a very routine, mundane life.
Mm-hmm.
I find that compared to previous youthful life when I was sort of roaming and being a little crazy, no job, traveling, living off my parents. I noticed that with the discipline, a little more disciplined life of sila and samadhi, or at least attempting to live that way and holding a job, my ego is getting more integrated. So instead of feeling less of the body, less of the mind, there's a stronger I notice forming than previously where I was all over the place. Is that a healthy way to move forward in the practice?
If it's based on skillful living, yes, yeah. It's a you probably still had a strong sense of an I, underneath, but it was so scattered, or so dissipated, and maybe you could say filled in with lots of unskillfulness, that you just didn't notice it, But if it's based upon skillful living, that's a much more of a grounded and much more of a solid foundation for developing the practice. Yeah. Sila, samadhi, wisdom now. You just need a bit of panya, no?
That's what I'm here. You gotta feed, like you feed the birds, you gotta feed us the
Yeah. Those are, yeah.
Final question, well, from me anyways.
Yeah.
Ajahn, how do you deal with pain at the dentist? You're going to the dentist tomorrow, is that right? Oh, okay.
Yep.
How are you going to deal with the pain? I was in hospital not so long ago, and the nurses were trying to find my veins. It's a very, very painful process of trying to find my veins.
Yeah.
And I directed it as a kind of karma, because I know logically they're trying to find my veins for the purpose of giving me medicine, but it didn't, my mind was really struggling with the pain, so I did it karmically, as in, this is some sort of karma, and I'm directing it at my parents, as in like, this is a repayment for all the crap that I've done.
Oh.
In the past. It's like a repayment. This is a payment for them. Is that healthy? Is that wise? Or is that a kind of delusion?
Yeah. Well, the Buddha said you can't really say exactly what the results of past karma are. It's very complicated. Yeah. So I mean, it's maybe it's a kind of a little bit of an escape.
Yes.
Delusion, not quite correct. But probably maybe it's a healthy delusion. Maybe if there is such a thing. Yeah, if there is such a thing, I said, qualified it. It's just like, like you're trying to teach children, you see. So you can't explain really the complex notion of what life is about, so you keep it simple. Huh? You kind of simplify it, in the beginning. But as long as you don't believe that is the absolute final answer, it's just like a step on the way, you see. Now I understand that, but I'm not going to stick with that. I will try and study it deeper and gain better understanding of it, more clear understanding, more sophisticated understanding. See? So, just do the best you can at the time. Yeah.
Thank you so much. If you're very grateful for your presence here after 4 years away from Thailand, and you come back, it's like returning all the light you brought, the cool breeze in the air, because the day you arrived yesterday, the winter just
Started, yeah. Yep.
So thank you. And you mentioned about the bushfire. Yeah. With this portrait from my friend, she's an artist, and she has offered this lotus painting to the monastery, Dhamma in Australia. But since Ajahn couldn't take it with Ajahn, but he
Mm.
So if any of our friends here would like to Thammo means like offer what you like to get this portrait and take it to put on your wall, you're welcome to. But if you know there is a friend in Australia, she's a Thai lady, she mentioned she would like to Thammo and take this
To Australia. Huh?
maybe.
Ah.
Maybe you go to Buddha Dhamma. So yes, just to let you know what is about this painting. It's about Thammo means in Thailand that we would like to offer or give something that we feel that we are happy and after giving, we feel light-hearted. That's the way it is. And so there's there are books out there. Gratitude by Ajahn Tiradhammo, which is our first senior disciple of Buddha, which we can take home. Yes, enjoy reading. Also, Ajahn, would you like to mention about your newly published book, Beyond Eye Making?
So it's really only for the advanced students, yeah.
Only those who handed the homework.
Yes, yeah. There's other books out there of Ajahn Sumedho too. The Four Noble Truths, I think it's called. Yeah. It's also out there too. For free distribution, yeah.
Maybe you like to have the book Beyond Eye Making, but there's a condition.
It's on the internet. Yeah. Under wbd.org.au. Then you go to news and book. Yeah.
So the website of Buddha Dhamma is
wbd.org.au. Yeah.
If you like to listen to more of Ajahn talks, you can go through it's on YouTube. Right?
Yep. Yeah.
Replays as much as you like. There are many talks, interesting talks.
Yeah.
Also, Ajahn came over at the airport also.
Yep.
He's,
Yeah. Every week we give a talk. We take turns.
So, how long will you stay in Thailand?
Just till January 5th.
Before that time?
I go up to Ubon on Sunday. Yeah. Yeah. Come back on the 3rd. Leave on the 5th. Yeah. Yeah.
there will be a big ceremony on the 25th, 26th, 27th. So if you like to attend to really see how the flowers have nourished in the West, like many monasteries and so many Kuba Ajahns, the teachers come from all branches in the world, maybe close to 1,000. All
What-
branches in Thailand too. All branches in
Oh,
Thailand.
no. I think there's only 300 altogether.
300
Three.
from the West, or
No. 20 in the West. 20. Yep.
Ajahns,
Oh,
How
yeah.
many in Thailand, branches?
About 250, 300. Mostly just some Naksong.